If you look at slavery just as a global fact of life everywhere on earth, right? And then you actually look at, so where did the sources against slavery come from? Because slavery is sanctioned in the Torah, it's sanctioned in the Bible, it's sanctioned in the Quran, it's regulated in all of these things. So all of these holy books, actually, if you compare them to the status quo that they entered into, they were all somewhat progressive, and most of them say like you should treat slaves better and you can't enslave everybody, which again is progressive relative to the time. But where do you get the first abolitionist sentiment? In other words, the first principle that slavery is wrong for all time, no matter who you are. You get that in the West. You get that in America and in Britain in the 18th century, from Quakers and from other religious groups.
It's a very Enlightenment value in a way, right? It kind of tied to all the other things going on in the Enlightenment.
Yeah. And if you want to try to find it somewhere else in the world before that, you're not really going to find it. You're not going to find it in the Buddhist Analects. You're not going to find it in India. You're not going to find it anywhere. And so this thing we take for granted today that slavery is wrong, it was just not obvious to people that slavery per se was wrong until very recently. And that is a Western, not only is it a Western principle, it was enforced by the West in the sense that the British Navy went around the world stamping out the slave trade, forcing people, negotiating with Ottoman leaders, forcing them really at the point of a gun to stop slave trading. And it was over the loud objections of African chiefs, Muslim leaders, all around the world that the slave trade was ended.
I have a couple portraits of the British guys who passed the laws over in my game room. If you go look at the guys in robes there, they're the ones who banned slavery for the British Empire. But
so just to put a point on this. So I talked about how if you want to weaponize the history of slavery to divide Americans, right, the subconscious lesson is white people evil, black people good. But if you look at the broader history of slavery, the real lesson is Western values are basically good and moral and at the vanguard of advancing the issue on slavery, and that no group of people should be entrusted with unbridled power over any other group of people, because all groups of people have tended to lord over others.
Unchecked power is very dangerous, which is kind of core to how our government works. But you said something interesting earlier about this when we were chatting offline, is that this, in some ways, this makes us like more hypocritical than others, right?
Yeah.
Which makes it easier to attack, because in a lot of ways, our founders of America had these values, and then they were sort of aware that they were being hypocritical, right?
Yes. Yeah. So one reason America comes in for extra criticism is because of the hypocrisy, right? And you might say, okay, you found a nation on this idea that all men are created equal, yet black people are still enslaved in many of the states. Even the founders themselves, several of them owned slaves. There are two ways of looking at this. One is to say, okay, the hypocrisy makes it even worse. But if you actually think about it, I would argue the hypocrisy makes it better. And I know that sounds crazy, but most of the world, there was no hypocrisy because there were no values that had any clash with slavery. In other words, when Western leaders went to the Ottoman sultans and said, hey, you guys have got to stop slavery, the Ottoman sultans would literally just hold up a Quran and say, here's the verse, here's the verse, here's the verse, slavery is perfectly legal. What the heck are you even talking about, right? In America, once you had the Declaration of Independence and you had the founding principles, you had lots of people saying, hold on, guys, what the heck are we doing? Why are we complaining about individual rights, the equality of man vis-a-vis the British, when we have people in chains in our own country? They were able to hold that up and expose a hypocrisy that forced a resolution, right? Because you can't live in hypocrisy forever, right? So it forced a resolution ultimately that freed the slaves. It's much better to have that forcing mechanism of hypocrisy because you have good principles than to have no principles that actually force attention with slavery to begin with.
This is something I always loved about Dr. King and his allies in the civil rights movement, is they really believed in like U.S. principles and U.S. Constitution and then the foundations of our civilization. It's something that I really believe in as well. And I love that that energy brought us together. And then it's just like terrifying to me, this like other 1970s energy, right? That just was more about just ripping us apart. And it's no surprise, right? When you see communists and Marxists and you see our adversaries, of course, they're going to want to fund some of these other things like the DEI and CRT stuff, because it does rip us apart, right? It makes sense the adversaries would not want to lift up Dr. King. They'd want to lift up this other version.
Right. I mean, so two things. One is the difference between Dr. King and the civil rights movement and all the movements that came after is what Dr. King was asking is, look, if America is a house, the house is fundamentally good. We're just asking you to let us inside.
Yeah.
We're not asking you to change the house. We're not asking you to destroy it and build a new one.
Yeah.
The other folks are saying the house is fundamentally flawed. Even if we get inside, we're never going to be full citizens of it. So tear it all down and build it anew. That's the fundamental difference. Now, the problem that the modern day race activists have is that almost everything Dr. King said was the opposite of their philosophy. Yeah. If you actually go back and read it, right? In his book, Why We Can't Wait, he says we should have class-based policy, not race-based policy. Fundamentally, over and over, he said what matters about a person is not their racial identity, but their individual values. Over and over again, he said this. Yeah. So they have a big problem because Dr. King still is basically a secular saint in our society, as he should be in a lot of ways. If we're going to have one, he's a very good one to have. But they have to manipulate what he says. So basically what happens, and I've written columns about this, every single Martin Luther King Day, there's a trick that's played. There's like 10 of the same exact article that get written at all the usual suspects. Yeah. And they're basically copy paste of each other. And every one of them says this: Martin Luther King was really a radical. You're like, oh, that's interesting. That makes you think, oh, he'd probably support Black Lives Matter and all these things. And then you double click on like what they mean by radical. You ask for the receipts, and all the evidence is he was against the Vietnam War before it was cool, which is true. And he was like pro universal healthcare, Bernie Sanders type economics policies, which I don't agree with. But there's nothing in there about like racial essentialism, anything to do with race at all. It's just economics and his anti-war philosophy.
And he wasn't trying. He was trying to lift us all up together. He wasn't trying to tear us apart.
Absolutely, yeah.
These guys.
So it's kind of a bait and switch there, where it's like, actually, no, there's no evidence. And in fact, in his final book, the whole second chapter is a critique of the Black Power movement, which was the BLM of its day.
Really? He actually did a critique of the Black Power
it's the entire second chapter of his final book.
Wow.
And in that chapter, he says one of his critiques of Black Power is that they should change their name to Power for Poor People, because it should not be focused on race. It should be focused on class.
I love it.
Yeah.
Clarence Jones is still alive. I had him on the show. He's in his 90s. He was like a really smart lawyer.
Yeah.
We talked about some of these things. I didn't realize that at all, though. One worry I have, actually, I'm curious what you think. They had so Cesar Chavez was another, almost not the level of Dr. King, but very admired in our society. But and they recently tore him down because of some things that came out that he'd done personally. And the real reason they tore him down, as far as we could tell, is he was a leftist activist that they had his name everywhere, but he was very against legal immigration and very against legal immigrants, which is obviously very problematic for the modern left. And so they were kind of, I feel like they were looking for an excuse. And then when they found some horrible things he'd done in his personal life, they just took his name right away off everything. And I hope this doesn't happen to Dr. King, because clearly his personal life wasn't perfect. Obviously, he did have some complicated things. But hopefully he's more protected from the things that they did to take down Cesar Chavez. I don't know.
I don't know. He might be more protected because he's more he's more beloved by more people. I don't know. But we know he cheated quite a bit on his wife. Some of the allegations that have been made through the rumor mill and the FBI spying on him and all that stuff are probably worse than cheating. Allegations of sexual assault, perhaps. Probably impossible to litigate at this point in time.
And I think the values he stood for were so powerfully uniting that hopefully we don't take him down. But I'm worried that the activists will with that.
I mean, the irony of these things is almost, so many of the men that are admired from history have these kinds of foibles. And the ones we choose to take down are a function of which values we want to promote today. Yep. So on the left, you see, Marx had so many things in his personal life.
Such a bad guy.
He was a terrible guy with his friends, with women, with money, with racism, with the N-word, with anti-Semitism. Foucault, let's not even get into Foucault.
It's a weird child stuff. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So he's a terrible guy.
These guys are eminently cancelable and never canceled
because the far left's in charge of the canceling.
Right? So let's not play that game.